All right. Well, I'm going to start a timer. Thank you for joining me today on this walkthrough meeting. I have a sign-in sheet for everyone, so as it's going around, if you would just introduce yourself, and then we can bring that back around, and I'll share with you the agenda for today.
Lizette Paisley, I'm the secondary principal, so 6th grade through 12th grade.
Thank you.
Dana Davis, I'm the Meridian ISD superintendent.
Thank you.
Amanda Spivey, I'm the academic advisor for 6th through 12th grade here at the high school.
Daryl Hogan, I'm the Meridian Elementary School principal.
And Jessica Chandler, newly hired on as the 6th and 7th grade reading language arts teacher and principal candidate with SFA. Okay, so today we're going to be looking at walkthroughs, and I have a copy of the current walkthrough form that's being used here at the secondary campus, at least. I'm not sure if you have a different form that you use, Mr. Hogan, and you can touch on that if you'd like. I have, everybody gets their own, so I didn't mean to take your paper off there, sorry.
No, the form I use is, so you can put all your quotations down, your notations.
Okay, so you do more scripting?
Yes, lots of scripting.
Okay.
That's a big T test.
So in this form, and I think Ms. Davis could speak to it better than I could, but from what she was able to explain to me, this is the front form that you're all looking at is the one that's currently being used. So we have these columns across of things that we're looking for. So looking for those objective statements of the we will, I will. The power zone, so is the teacher up and active, or sitting maybe at a small group with students and working actively with the students? And I forget what the W1T2
Right first talk second.
That's right, yes. And I guess evidence of some sort of exit ticket if you got to be there for that part of the walkthrough, but you may have come in at the beginning of the class, so you may not have evidence of that, but maybe there's some sort of note to take an exit ticket before they leave. And C4 before me, which is very similar to something that I have a structure in my classroom of 3 before me. So why not make it 1 more, right? And just building that autonomy. So over here, there is a place for other notes that you may have, and I'm sure you could even carry in a notepad if you're needing to take more anecdotal notes. So the first column obviously is where the teachers' names would go. So this is the form that's currently being used. Did you have anything you want to add on to that?
Well, I can just tell you when I'm completing a walkthrough, there are no surprises. So the teachers are prepped that these are the things we're looking for when we come through. And so it mirrors aggressive monitoring, which is a get better, faster strategy that they can use. So it's a good way to show them quickly what points they were able, my look fors that I did see, and my look fors that I may not have seen. So it can be quickly transferred into empirical evidence, like I can tell them in 5 out of 6 classrooms, I saw this strategy. So it's easy to convert into empirical evidence.
Thank you. So I like that piece about the teachers not being surprised about it. In this book that I've been reading, the Leveraged Leadership, which is one actually that Ms. Davis was referencing earlier, and they also referenced the Get Better Faster that she's talking about, which is where she gets the which one is it? The right first, talk second?
Right first, talk second, aggressive monitoring. Yes.
Okay. Yes, so in this, they suggest, being in the classrooms as much as every other week, at least in a quick walkthrough of, even if it's only 10 minutes or 15 minutes, and leaving some sort of data with that teacher. Even if it's not, you need to improve. It could just be a compliment of, I like that I saw what I was looking for. You had your objective statement up. And so one thing that they talked about in here is that it's so important that we have so much time to compliment the teachers, that when it is time to coach them and it is time to direct them, they will hear what you have to say because they trust you. So I think that that's what I also hear you saying about, if the teachers know what they're looking for, there's these no surprises of, okay, I can welcome you coming in.
I too. So if you see me coming in, that's your prompt to do one of these things if you're not doing them.
Mhm.
And so you're more apt to see the strategy that you're looking for if they know that's what you're looking for.
That's true. Yeah. And these are structures that they know that are in place, so the students can be trained on that too, because we want them to have that autonomy and that ownership of the classroom just as much as the teachers. Of, okay, we know, like in 3 before me, C4 before me, that I should not be coming up and interrupting this teacher. I mean, even in first grade, I taught the students there better be the 3 Bs if you're going to come interrupt teacher table. You better be bleeding or bone is broken or you're barfing.
Yes.
Otherwise, you need to solve that problem on your own. And that's where I think that those class jobs can come into effect. And even writing, using those literacy skills of, okay, it's that urgent and you think no one can help you solve it, write a note and leave it at my desk.
Yes, it's a question you can write.
Because a lot of these students don't feel that they can count on their peers, but they do see us as that person that they can trust. So they still don't think I can get that answer from anybody but you. And sometimes they really can't. So they do need to know that there's a place that they can bring that to. Well, I should have asked if you had a different observation form, but maybe you could just speak to these other forms that we have. And so I need to back up. I totally forgot, y'all. I need to share the rest of the agenda. So the goal here, so we've welcomed, so thank you for that. And we just looked at our current walkthrough. So we've already done the first 2 things on the agenda. So what we're next going to be doing is looking at the data that we have. So thank you. We've already got the data, and we're going to look at pinpointing areas that our district may have of needed growth. So the outcome here, the plan is that we have a 1-page document when we're finished that could be used as a walkthrough document. So obviously we would want to be able to carry in some of these pieces that we already have in place, especially if it's what the teachers are already expecting, So under that, you'll see you have 3 other observation forms that I just found online. And we could look that over and see if there are some things that you like. And then on the very back, you just have some blank pages. If you have some ideas that you feel like this really needs to be put into a walkthrough form, and then we can piece all those together and kind of jigsaw a new walkthrough form, which I will be using when I observe a teacher coming up, so in summer school. So I think it's understandable if there's some downtime and a lull in here, since we need to observe this and look over the forms.
One thing I will say about the first one we have is Ms. Davis was the principal and I was the teacher over at high school. She made it very clear to us that we would all have the we will, I will on the chalkboard stated every day.
Your objective for the day.
Every day. Every day. That was very important. And every teacher understood that.
Okay.
So, we were all on the same page.
And that was just tied to whatever the standard was for the day that you were focusing on.
Absolutely.
And I think too, it's important. I always teach my teachers, it may not change significantly every day because you may be working on that standard for more than one day. But I need to know that it's tied to what's happening when I come in, and that's a quick, that way I don't have to stay there or go back and dig through your lesson plan to find out what the objective is.
Right. Okay.
So it just needs to tie in with what I'm seeing.
Okay. So the performance outcome that you're looking for from that student needs to match that objective. And that's what you were looking for. Does the exit ticket have to match that too, or what were you looking for?
Well, and the other thing to note about exit tickets, because I heard you say maybe you wouldn't be there at that time, but I also train my teachers that an exit ticket doesn't always come at the end of the day. It comes at the end of a module of learning. And so your exit ticket may be something that's embedded in the middle of that lesson. Or I've given my mini lesson and I'm going to give you an exit ticket so I can look at that when I send you to guided practice, and I may find something there that I need to go
reteach right then
and give feedback on.
Okay.
So walkthroughs, I think, are the most valuable thing you can do for teacher improvement. Because it's a small chunk, but you're getting lots of different snapshots through that are small rather than that 45 minutes,
Yes, yes.
in-depth thing. And so they have lots of opportunity for growth before you get to that summative evaluation.
And I think it's more authentic too, because you haven't had time to plan a big 45-minute lesson that
Yes.
you know is going to become your, T-test observation. I mean, it's just a piece.
Right.
So I think because that stress level is lowered, teachers are probably more their authentic selves in those moments, knowing, hey, you're only going to be in here a minute.
Yes. Yes. Also, it's less stressful for that reason.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, if you're consistently coming into the classroom, then they get used to you and they figure out that it's not a gotcha,
Mm-hmm.
that we're here to help you.
Mm-hmm.
And what can I do to help you?
Mm-hmm.
That type of deal. Comfortable type of deal.
Well, looking at these other observation forms, are there any pieces that you feel like would be beneficial to pull in? Even if, we had more of a space for annotating or, I don't know, maybe even the time is important information. Like, if there's a behavior issue with data, like, is it because this child's always having trouble at a certain time of the day? Is it an afternoon thing? And you having kind of a different set of eyes than that teacher has, maybe that would be beneficial, even helping partner with that teacher of, let's see if we can pinpoint where the trigger is, So I thought that the time piece might be a good piece to pull in there.
usually, just so you know, when we're doing walkthroughs, because we usually go as a team when we do that, we do look at master scheduling, especially here at junior high and high school, to make sure we're going in at the appropriate time, that we're going to see something and we're not catching them during a conference time or, So I agree, that's important. And again, at the beginning, I'll ask them, when would you like me to come?
Okay.
Do that a few times so that they have some ownership and autonomy over that. Again, you're just building that trust.
So they don't feel like it's a gotcha.
Yes.
Okay.
One thing Miss Davis would do, the walkthroughs, if she'd leave a little post-it note with a piece of chocolate.
Oh. I think chocolate goes a long way, right? There's a love language there.
Well, and another, just a strategy that I've used in the past are 2 kisses and a hug. And so like 2 kisses with 2 comments that I've loved. And one thing that I wondered about in that child for the day, like, I just need to know more about this.
I like that.
So you can do it so many different ways. You can do it a lot of
2
different
kisses
ways.
and a hug. I knew it was something.
Okay. So on that note, were 2 things that you liked and something you're wondering about. So that wondering about could just be, I need you to elaborate on this, or it could be, I would like to know why you're doing it this way.
Or
Tell me about that strategy.
Can you explain to me when that's happening?
Okay. So,
And a lot of times you find that too, like, that that's probably coming, but you didn't see it today. So, the cues, just like they are in aggressive monitoring, letting them know what the cues are for the marking is important. So we use NO for not observed.
Yeah.
Or check if I saw it, like if it was in place and it was going well.
Okay.
Because just because I didn't see it doesn't mean it's not happening. I just didn't observe it right now.
Okay, so I guess let's look at one of these together then.
Okay.
Let's look at the one that has all the boxes on here, the informal observation general form. And, it has a place for the teacher's name, the grade, the date, the evaluator's name, the time the walkthrough begins, the time the walkthrough ends. And then these are just little check boxes, but there is a small place here for comments, and then tells you can photocopy this to the teacher. Some of the things that they were going to be looking for was if it was developmentally appropriate, if the instruction was developmentally appropriate. I think that they could even reword that maybe and look at, was the instruction rigorous, or was question.
Student-centered, or
Yes, student
align it
centered.
more to like T-tests.
Mm-hmm. So maybe more T-test language.
Mhm.
Beside that, it says the lesson content is linked to previous and future learning. I think that's good. I don't know if there's a place on here to pull that into it being data driven. I think that.
Well, one of the things too that T-test likes, you could maybe change this up to put like, was there real world examples?
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, and I saw that on one of the other ones, and I think that's a good one too, because you're gonna, I don't know where I saw that, but
so
I saw that
students know
somewhere.
how to apply the information that they're learning to
Mhm.
something tangible.
I think one area that I would like to see students growing in is continuing to really practice in the language aspect of what we need to see in the short constructed responses and in the extended constructed responses. It has to do with, I think that part of that, what you're looking for in a classroom, not just in a language arts classroom, but really in all classrooms. You know, I'm thinking about a campus that I worked at. We were actually on a writing growth plan back when there was a 4th grade writing star because the students didn't perform well. And so we brought writing in kindergarten upwards. I mean, it was in the pre-K classroom. Okay, how can you pull writing into that? You know, PE, how can you pull writing into that? You know, and we saw tremendous growth because what we realized was, you know, we needed to just immerse them in writing with everything. And we had a high ESL population in that school. Plus, it was a bilingual school. So a lot of these students just needed more exposure with the language. And so a lot of our students do too. You know, they just need some rich conversations.
And it's so important to write cross-curricular because when you get, say you're going to college, you don't just write a research paper in English. You're going to write one in your science classroom. You're going to write one for your history professor. So that's something that I try to stress to teachers is you need to be doing that cross-curricular because they're not only writing in college for English, and if that's the only place we ever write, we're not exposing them to the type of critical writing they're going to need to be able to do.
I agree.
So
I think 2 pieces there that I would be looking for would be the language piece is rich conversation taking place. Are students providing 1-word, 2-word answers, or are they responding in full what I call college talk sentences? You know, if they try to give me a short answer, I say, you know, you're not a baby. We need college talk sentences. So rephrase that. And for some of those students, you might have to model. This is what I'm looking for. To support that, I would also say a lot of sentence stems need to be in the room. So strong sentence stems, because I think we kind of threw a lot of these kids into the deep end as we're seeing across the state. So not so strong extended constructed response scores, you know, and short constructed response. I think it's because we need to probably back up even more and make sure that language piece is in place first. So those are a couple of things that I would like to see across the board.
I also think that's an application where AI can really help us because it's whatever we ask it to do is going to be a great example of something that's appropriate.
That's good. Yeah.
So,
And we do have something to help our ELA teachers with the AI aspect,
Okay.
to help with grading, feedback, and so that frees up some of the teachers' time too. So that way they're able to help.
Okay.
I was gonna say sheep, but I'm like, Mr. Spider's not sheep. But anyway, so that way they can help, you know, and not be so time consumed with grading or writing feedback or that type of thing.
And they can be having that dialogue with the kids instead and helping them grow in those areas and devoting that time in other areas. Because I think that just like we, you know, are talking about walkthroughs are so important, and, you know, the administrators need to be in the classroom observing more. Teachers need to be observing what are the students doing more. You need to have your finger on exactly where every child's strength is and where every child's
and
weakness
immediate
is.
feedback so that they're not making that mistake repeatedly or continuing to do that thinking it's fine. And then it's 3 days before they get any feedback on that. So they continue to do it. So did you want to talk about checklists versus like what?
Oh, that's a good point. Okay, so if we should use checklists versus something more scripted, what about a cohesion of both of those pieces? Because like you were saying, scripting is so important. And I know in the book, they even talked about some of these administrators are flat out videoing the whole thing, which I think that would be a little frightening. I mean, we all talked about how it's a little scary to have this video going. So I don't know how you would bring that guard down so that teachers are just okay with you videoing them. I think that could be frightening.
Yeah. But I do like, if it's something that I want to reference later during like my 45-minute or anytime really, I will take a picture of the resource or maybe I will of the whole thing. So I know. That's another reason I don't have a lot of space for writing, because I do a lot of picture taking and just, interacting with the kids in the room and that kind of thing. So I think that versus like a checklist is, have we defined all of this for the teacher, and is it clear what we mean when we check that? That is why I use the other one, because they know exactly what I'm coming in to look for. Like they've had PD on that, they've had training on what that looks like in a classroom. Again, there's no surprise about what that is. And I think sometimes on checklists, we assume that it's kind of like everything else. I assume that a teacher and I have the same perception of what that is, and we may not.
Right.
Let me reiterate what I said about scripting. Scripting falls into play more in your formal observation.
In the 45 minutes.
Yeah, but like the form here Ms. Davis has, I think is wonderful for walkthrough, because you're just there just a brief moment.
Yeah, like a snapshot.
You're not there for, 45 minutes or so.
A whole lesson.
And so, there's a big difference.
Yeah.
Big difference in walkthrough and formal observation. So
Yeah.
that's why I said that.
And like one of the things I wanted to add too is like all these are great, but for me, I'm a computer person. So for me, it would be preferable to put all of this in DMAC, create it as a form, and that way the information is there all the time. Because a piece of paper like this for me, I'm not organized enough. I'll lose it.
Right.
Like, where's that piece of paper that I had?
Yes.
And so that way it's always there in DMAC. I mean,
That's
for
a good
years
point.
to come.
And there are some forms already in DMAC, right?
And you can
is that what you use? Okay.
So you can create one that you want, like.
I can
yourself?
literally
You can.
type this in and it's just a form that you're clicking.
Okay.
And like where she said, not observed or whatever, click. For Power Zone, not observed. Or yes, I saw it. Or exit ticket, I saw it, click yes, and then add in a little bit of notes.
Okay.
Just to make it easier, and then all the information is stored in one area, like she said, for the data piece.
And then the teacher has
Sees
that
it
as soon as you
immediately.
release it to them.
And I'm old and I want to touch it. So that's just, it's just a
Yeah.
difference in what you're.
Whatever works.
But like this though, it's best because it's short, it's sweet. The teachers know exactly what you're coming in there to look for. It's just short and simple.
Well, I feel like it's also, y'all know what you're looking for. So you can observe those things, but then also you can see what the kids are doing. You're not constantly, you're not
Well, I'm
constantly
not
observing.
looking
Yeah.
back at this to see.
Because when you pass these out, look, and I
Yeah.
opened these, I was like, oh, this is a lot.
It
I would
is.
be a little
Because you
overwhelmed
want
if
to
I'm in the
spend
room.
your time observing, not
Yes,
actually like you're looking at your computer trying to do stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That makes sense.
No,
Also,
that-
and then the teacher has to decipher that too, then when they go back to look at it for anything that's actionable. And generally with this, I'm gonna follow this up with a coaching session, if that's what I'm going in for.
Right.
Right, if it's not just, I'm gonna flash this for the teachers to see, and I did not see any right first, taught second this week. Then I'm just gonna send that out and ask, when can I see this in your classroom?
Okay.
So then I can follow up that way. But if there's something specific that I wanna work with the teacher on, then I'm gonna have them come in and it's a scripted conversation that tells you, you're gonna have that coaching conversation with that teacher where you question them and they get to come up with what is gonna work for them to work on that strategy or whatever you're looking for.
I like that. Well, I guess we can look at our data then that we have pulled up, and we'll just share the screen so that we can see that at the same time. And we're looking at the 6th grade data of the current STAR results that were just released. Yes, I had it pulled up there, so you should be able to. Okay, so we're looking, this was their 5th grade
Yeah,
STAR
so
test.
all of this data right here, I color coded it according to the state, so that way we knew how they performed on STAR.
Mhm.
And so as you can see, so there's the ELAR, how they perform. Purple is approaches, blue meets, green masters, and then did not meet. And then math, how they performs, and then science.
Okay.
You know, where you see they're having some
Mhm.
weaknesses.
Okay. So we're not looking in depth then at their performance on the test. We don't have actual standards, but we do see where there's a big area of need here than in science.
Absolutely.
And so like this is helpful for you, like when you're doing walkthroughs, because you're seeing it right at a macro level, big picture, right? This is what it looks like as a big picture. Now let's go in there and look to see how we can clean up some, like let's say ELAR, these areas that they didn't miss. And so go back and look through DMAC. Hey, it's inferencing that they're having problems with, or it's, you know, summarizing that they're having issues with. So that way you can help work on that skill. That's what you're helping that teacher with in that coaching session.
Yes. Okay. So using then this data that we're looking at, say we're looking at an ELAR classroom, how can we use that data to help us, you know, or say we're looking at a math classroom, how can we use that data to help us guide what you feel like would be beneficial in putting into a walkthrough?
So like, let's say you're going down student number 5, I won't say their name out loud because,
okay,
but you go in and you know, oh, hey, that kid's in there.
yeah.
I
Okay.
know they're sped, and I know that when they took STAR last year, they only passed math. They didn't do well in science or ELAR.
Mhm.
And so that way you already know some of the challenges that student has to see like, are they getting accommodations if that's what you're looking at? Or, you know, what type of strategies are working in this classroom where they're successful that maybe you can help pass on to another teacher to help them be successful? Because like that, it's not listed on there, but that kid is also ESL. So to see, you know, how they may need help.
Okay. So when you're doing a walkthrough, you are sometimes looking for specific students and how that student is engaging.
Because you'll notice, like, if a student in the class, you can do a quick scan. Which students are not engaged? And you'll see, is it my SPED students? Is it my students that, my class clowns? Is it my students, you know, that are disruptive?
Is it your GT kids?
Is it, yeah, because they're bored.
Because they're bored, yeah.
And when I look at it overall, I'm seeing, okay, only 2 students have mastered anything, so how are we gonna move that?
Yeah.
How do we move that bar? Right, and so you can also see where your small groups need to happen by looking at that, because where your intervention has got to happen.
See, and this may look negative, but it's not negative. It's like, look at how much room these kids have to grow.
Yes.
Lots of room for growth. It's like, what little strategies can we do to take our kids from approaches to meets to masters? From our ones that are bubble kids that did not pass, but to get them up there to that approach as well.
Yeah. And you have quite a few there who met in both ELAR and in math, who you could probably pull on up to mastery next school year.
Yes.
You know, and so looking at that interim data.
And a lot of your accountability comes from the growth measure rather than just the score itself. So just looking at how those areas for growth are important.
So if we were looking at this first sheet then, and we're thinking about how we want to get these students to grow, I guess maybe we should go back to the video so that they can see us. I'm not sure if we're still recording our faces or not. It's that tab right. There we go. Okay. Thank you. So are there any pieces then looking at that data that you feel like we need to pull into a walkthrough form that would be helpful? I'm thinking of higher level questioning skills. So, I mean, those could be found in an exit ticket. Those could be found even in your objective statements of your we will, I will. And it could be part of that 2 kisses and a hug that you're saying. Tell me more about this, you know.
And another resource that I often provided as a principal is questioning stems that are higher order question stems. That is not supernatural for anyone just to ask those.
Right.
And so I would ask the teachers to schedule that also, like put that in your plan so that you know you're going to ask that. That's something that I've had on this document before. It's just not on this particular copy of it. So you would just add a column for that. I encourage them to partner up and just, check how many different levels of bloom are you hitting while you're questioning. That's a good teacher pair
Oh, yeah, to check their plans against each
opportunity.
other.
Are we teaching
so-
critiques?
Yes, but also just, it's a little less intrusive and intimidating when it's my partner teacher or somebody who's just a fellow teacher to come in. I used to have I had a language arts teacher who was she and I worked well together, and I would have her, how many times do I call on the left side of the room versus right? Like I would give her a task to tick every time she came in.
Yeah.
So just keep a tally of how many times I call on these kids versus these, or I'd give her a seating chart. Just put a tally mark when I call on a
Am I
child.
calling on the front of the room
Yes.
instead of the back of the room, or the
Yes.
girls versus the boys?
And it's funny how that improves your teaching, just to be aware of what you're doing that you're not aware of. I'm
Yeah.
just not aware of that. So I'm gonna call on the people who are gonna answer my questions.
Yes,
But the others
especially when
need
you
that.
know that you're being observed.
Yeah. So it's just good practice to do that. So.
Being comfortable with that wait time, knowing that I'm going to call on that kid who may need that extra 10 seconds to process what I even asked before they can think of an answer
Also,
to
did
that.
I have them do right first, talk second? And that's the application for that. They may not be able to answer at the moment I ask the question. So when I give everyone the opportunity to write about it first, they've had that, it's built in wait time.
And there are holes in that writing piece that we talked about that we're needing. I mean, as a state, I can't see the writing data on there, but just knowing as a general rule, I feel like that could be something that we could be working to strengthen and refine. Okay, so it looks like we've already met our time and we've discussed some great things. So I think that we can pull this into a one-pager. Is there, if everybody could just, I guess, give me one thing that you feel like would help me make this a real strong, or maybe write it down on your blank. Write first, talk second.
Okay.
So write it down on the back of your packet. You have a blank page. And then we will call this good. Still says it's being recorded. Sorry. I clicked stop.
Oh, you did?
I did.
There you go.
Stop recording.